Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping into a profound and honestly often misunderstood space. We're going to explore the inner world of resistant children. It's a fascinating journey into an approach designed specifically to reach the kids who seem, well, the absolute hardest to reach. So let's start off with a really crucial question. Why do some children push us away? You likely know the exact behavior we're talking about. It's the child who constantly yells, the one who just completely shuts down, or maybe acts out aggressively in the classroom or at home. Now, it is so incredibly easy to look at that and just see defiance. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Instead of seeing this behavior as a blatant act of rebellion, we actually need to start thinking of it as a tightly locked door. You see, what we commonly label as bad behavior is rarely just straight-up rebellion. Think of it more like a wall. A thick, heavy wall built specifically to mask deep, overwhelming anxiety. These resistant, angry behaviors, they're actually highly developed self-protection mechanisms. They're hiding intense fears that the child simply cannot articulate yet. And this brings us to a really vital concept: invisible wounds. These are deep emotional injuries caused by trauma, humiliation, or just constantly being made to feel worthless. Unlike a scrape or a bruise, these wounds go straight to the core. Sometimes they literally crush a person's spirit. These hidden injuries are exactly what drives that violent inner storm, forcing a child to build those massive emotional walls we just talked about. Just think about the wild contradiction in how we as a society respond to children in pain. If a child falls and breaks their arm, adults rush right in, right? We offer comfort, casts, and care. But when a child suffers from an invisible wound and that pain manifests as acting out or defiance, we frequently respond with punishment. We end up punishing the symptoms simply because we cannot see the wound. So how do we usually try to fix it? Well, we sit them down and ask them what's wrong. But to a scared, traumatized child, traditional talk therapy, or even just a stern, well-meaning conversation with a parent, can feel like a full-blown interrogation. Sitting a defiant child down and demanding answers rarely works. They lack the complex verbal skills to explain their pain, and more importantly, they lack the trust to just hand over the key to their inner world to an adult. But there is an elegant, highly effective way to unlock that door. Skilled child therapists use a specific sequence. First, they tell a carefully crafted story. Then, the child is asked to simply draw a picture based on that story. And finally, the child explains what they drew. This completely replaces the heavy pressure of an interrogation with the safe, comforting language of imagination. To really grasp how this works, let's step directly into a child's shoes. A therapist told a 9-year-old boy named Michael a story about a misunderstood mouse who always complained that no one understood him, and then just asked him to draw that mouse. Surprisingly, children will often reveal secrets to a blank piece of paper that they would absolutely never tell a human being. This is the exact raw drawing Michael created. Take a moment and look closely at the details here. What does this really mean? It's not just a quick, random sketch. It's actually a direct, unfiltered window into Michael's reality. Look right at the mouse. Notice anything? He has absolutely no feet. He literally cannot run away. But Michael has given him a weapon, a prominent stinger on his tail for added protection. When the therapist explored this gently, Michael shared a story about being the youngest of 10 mice, constantly picked on by his older brothers. The missing feet and the added stinger reveal a heartbreaking theme that is so common among children who are bullied: this intense feeling of being trapped and the desperate, constant need for protection. And, this feeling of being trapped often leads to the heavy weight of an inner storm. For children dealing with explosive tempers and volatile environments, the therapy introduces another metaphorical character: Blow-Up Bernie. Bernie is a boy who loses all his friends because no one ever knows when his temper is just going to get the best of him. When asked to draw Blow-Up Bernie, another child created this dark, incredibly chaotic image. Bernie is lying flat on his back, and right beneath him is a massive, frantic scribble. That dark scribble represents a hidden bomb just waiting to explode. Dr. David Crenshaw, the child therapist who actually developed these techniques, notes something profound about children exposed to violence and trauma who draw images like this. He says, they never know when the bomb is going to go off, and consequently can never feel completely safe.
So why is this so important for us to understand? How does a drawn scribble of a bomb translate to the frustrating, aggressive behaviors we see in everyday real life?
Well, the answer lies right in their biology. When a child lives in constant fear, their body's internal alarm system gets stuck on high alert. It's a turbocharged emotional state. They lash out, they yell, they fight, not because they inherently want to be bad, but because their brain thinks they are in constant danger. They are perpetually waiting for the bomb to go off, so their bodies are just constantly braced for impact. But here is the absolute magic of that third step we talked about, the storytelling. When children put their scary monster or their hidden bomb out on paper, it physically shrinks its power. By inventing a new story about the drawing, they take the fear out of their heads and place it into the physical world. And in doing so, they voluntarily take back control from that inner storm. The monster simply isn't as big and terrifying in the daylight. Let's shift gears to the final stage of healing and see how this builds. Consider the story of the tree on top of the hill. The prompt asks the child to imagine a strong tree that has weathered centuries of change, fallen castles, raging storms, and yet it still stands tall and proud. This tree beautifully symbolizes a child's enduring resilience. By drawing that tree and telling its story, the storyteller actually discovers their own strength. Through the persona of the surviving tree, or maybe the brave mouse, or even a reformed Bernie, the child begins to envision a future where they can overcome their invisible wounds. They are literally projecting their own potential for healing and growth right onto the page. Which brings us to our final thought today. The walls these children build are incredibly thick, and the locks are heavy. It challenges us to stop demanding direct logical answers from the vulnerable people in our lives. If we just sit beside them and learn the language of their imagination, we might actually help them find the key. The real question is, the next time a child pushes you away, will you see a locked door, or will you just see defiance?